Hello, everybody.
Hi, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us for this Education on Air session. My name is Hai Hong, and I'm a program manager on Google's K-12 Education Outreach team. And with me, I've got my teammate, Abby Bouchon.
Hey, everybody.
And thanks for joining me today, Abby, and thanks everybody. We're excited to host this Education on Air. We're here to talk today about a study that Google recently published about getting more young women into computer science. So in the next 30 to 40 minutes, I'm going to cover three things, well, 3.5 things. One, why it's important that we expand access to and diversity in computer science education. Two, what Google's doing to move the needle on these important issues. Number three, we'll then dive into the research that Google published on the most influential factors that influence the most important factors that influence young women in high school to decide to study computer science at the university level. And then 3.5, we'll discuss what these findings mean for you. So let's go to the presentation, Abby, and we'll walk through the state of computer science in the US.
Sounds good.
All right, and we can hop to slide 3. Now, before we dive in, let's make sure that we're all on the same page. Let's define computer science. So there are different definitions of computer science, but the one that we'll use today is this. Computer science is the study of computers and how they work and think. This includes how they're designed, how to write step-by-step instructions to get them to do what you want them to do. It includes computational thinking, theory, and how algorithms work. So some practical examples of how you would use computer science include creating software, apps, games, building websites, and doing other pretty cool things like developing self-driving cars or mapping the Amazon rainforest. So it's important to note that oftentimes computer science is confused with computer literacy. Computer science is not technological literacy or fluency. We're not talking about information technology or IT. We're not talking about ed tech. It's also not searching the internet or using software to create a slideshow, okay? What we're talking about today is computer science, the study of computers, algorithmic processes, computational thinking, programming, etc. So with that, we'll move on to provide you with a little bit of background. As you can see here, the demand for computer scientists is soaring around the world. We need more workers who can understand and create the new technologies of the future, but the supply of these workers is not keeping pace with demand. So in the US, you'll see the red bar on the right. The tech sector needs 137,000 new computer science graduates every year, and we're only producing 43,000. It's about 31%, just over 30%. And this is important because the Bureau of Labor Statistics tells us that between 2012 and 2022, there will be 1.4 million new jobs created in computing. And at the current rates of graduation, we're looking at about 1 million of those jobs going unfilled. So this is this should be pretty exciting for potential computer science students since it indicates really great job opportunities. And if you jump to the next slide, it also indicates, frankly, a competitive salary. So here we see some data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Careers in computer science and math are some of the highest paid out there, following management and legal.
Hey, hi, this is Abby jumping in. I have a quick question about this chart. When we're looking at annual wages, do computer scientists need to be getting advanced degrees, their master's or PhD, to have a competitive salary?
That's a great question, Abby. So this data that we've got here from the Bureau of Labor Statistics does not take into account degree attainment, I believe. These are just average salaries for these careers. And while many computer scientists do have master's or PhDs or doctoral degrees, there are many, many, many jobs available in computer science that do not require a graduate degree. I think you call out a good point, and I think it's important to note that I would guess that getting careers in business management or in legal often require more experience or graduate degrees or additional training. So potentially, if we were to adjust this chart for additional years of schooling or experience, computer science could actually be at the top of the list.
Good to know. Thanks.
And I'd be remiss not to call out that while a competitive salary is important, of course, it's also important to work on things that you love and things that are meaningful. And there are lots of ways that you could have a career in computer science that would impact the world. So next slide, please. So in addition to the problem of low overall enrollment in computer science, there's also an issue with the mix of people going into computer science. What we're seeing is that in the US, women make up 51% of the US population, and they make up something like 56% of all bachelor's degrees. But you see here that women are really, yet only 18% of computer science degrees are going to women. Similarly, only 18% of computer science degrees are going to people who self-identify as Black or Hispanic or Native American, and they make up 30% of the US population. So why does this matter? Why are we focused on expanding computer science inclusivity, inclusiveness and diversity in computer science? First off, giving all students access to study computer science is just the right thing to do. In yesterday's Education on Air session, LeVar Burton, who's one of my childhood heroes as the host of Reading Rainbow, said something along the lines of, if you can read, you are, in my definition of the word, free. And so he said that literacy liberates and empowers people. And I think a very similar argument can be made for computer science as the new literacy. Computer science provides fundamental skills for problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and it empowers people to be creators and develop solutions to really big problems. So needless to say, at Google, we think that it's important that all students have the opportunity to pursue computer science and engage in work that impacts people's lives. From a business perspective, why is this important? There's a lot of research out there that shows that diverse teams are more effective. And Google believes that diversity is important to our work. We want our company to think, to troubleshoot, and to create products that our users want. And if the creators of our future technology better reflect the users of that technology, then we think that we would create better products for our users, and we would be better able to identify pitfalls and understand opportunities well in advance. So there also is a business argument for expanding inclusiveness in computer science. With that, let's jump to the next slide, Abby, and we'll talk briefly about why we focus on computer science rather than STEM fields in general. This is a question that we get a lot, and here's one reason. This is a graph that shows the percent of bachelor's degrees awarded to women in STEM fields in the United States over the last 4 decades or so. And you'll see that since the 1970s, every STEM field has trended upwards in terms of women's participation, including physics and engineering down towards the bottom, except for computer science. And CS, computer science, is the line in red, and that has a very different story. As you can see, it peaked. Women's participation in CS peaked in 1984 at 37% and has been on the decline ever since. And currently we're looking at rates of, as mentioned, about 18% by some measures, as low as 12% by some other measures. So, and right now, when we take a look at high school girls, next slide please, Abby, less than 1% of high school girls express interest in majoring in computer science at the university level. That's not even one whole girl for every 100 students, or for every 100 girls.
Hi, this is Abby jumping in with a question again. What does that number mean? Where are we finding the data that girls, less than 1% of girls want to pursue CS, and what does that look like for boys as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is based on some surveys that we've done and some data that we've looked at. The less than 1% of girls responding to surveys saying that they're interested in computer science, that's a really low number. And for reference, for boys, I believe the figure is something like 3.5% of boys are actually planning on majoring in computer science. So
oh, wow.
There's a huge disparity between the level of interest for girls and for boys. And if we jump to the next slide, this is a problem that Google really cares about, and it's something that we're working on. We support a lot of programs and a lot of nonprofits that work to make computer science more accessible and inclusive. And we'll talk briefly about a couple of these programs. The first of which is the RISE Awards. And the RISE Awards are grants for organizations around the world that expand computer science education in the K-12 space, or pre-university. We expand access to computer science education for all students, but with a special emphasis on girls, underrepresented minorities, and lower income students. The RISE Awards this year, we're proud to say, are funding 37 nonprofits in 19 countries. And on this map, you can see some of the locations of the organizations that we've funded over the last 6 years. The next program that I'd like to highlight is Made with Code. Last year, Google launched Made with Code, which is our campaign to inspire millions of girls to experience the power of code. We wanted to show all girls that coding can be fun and creative, and there's a lot of cool stuff that they can make with with coding and programming. And finally, the third program that I wanted to highlight is CS First. This is our program of after-school clubs designed to increase access to computer science education for 4th through 8th graders. It started as a really cool experiment that's allowed us to test different ways of getting students excited about computer science, such as storytelling, fashion and design, music and sound, and it's available at csfirst.com.
Hi, we actually have a question coming in from the audience right now. And the question is, what of these resources that I know there's a longer list earlier, but what of these can be used in the classroom for teachers that might be tuning in right now?
That's a great question. So the last two programs that I mentioned, Made with Code and CS First, are very applicable to in-classroom activities. So on Made with Code, there are activities that provide an introduction to computer science concepts into coding. You can find that at madewithcode.com, and we'll link to all of these resources in the Education on Air events page after this.
Great.
CS First is another great program. It's designed for local volunteers. We call them gurus, to teach fun and engaging computer science lessons to students. And the best part is the gurus don't have to have any computer science experience. And you can find out more about that at cs-first.com.
Great. And does CS First have to be taught in an after-school classroom, or could teachers incorporate into their curriculum?
Oh, absolutely. It could be incorporated in the curriculum. It does not have to be after school. It's a program that was designed for after-school lesson plans, but really the lesson plans are open source. They're completely modifiable, and yeah, they could be taught in class or out of class.
Awesome. Thanks for the context there.
Yeah, great questions. So now we'll dive into the Google's research study. This is the exciting part that you've all been waiting for. So at Google, we knew that we were investing a lot of resources into expanding computer science education. And because Google is a data-driven company, we wanted to make sure that we were investing in the right things that would actually have impact. We wanted to make sure that we were pulling the right levers to really influence girls' participation in computer science. So we started with a literature review, and we found that past research had identified 91 different factors that influence whether kids decide to study computer science. But we knew that 91 different factors was going to be too many to focus on. And so we wanted to test each of these variables to see which mattered the most. So we commissioned our own study to study girls' interest on CS and to determine where we should focus our efforts. So you'll see that most studies in the past have had smaller sample sizes. So the first exciting thing about our research is that we ran a really large study. With over 1,700 respondents. We oversampled for girls and women. And the study took a look at women and men, boys and girls, took a look at high school students and recent college graduates. And it took a look at students who were interested in or had studied computer science, and those who were not interested in pursuing computer science or had not studied it. And I should say, interest at the high school level, students who were interested in computer science or related fields, which includes engineering, math, statistics, also IT. Our study sample population was nationally representative. And what's most exciting about this study is that we were able to test each of the 91 variables that we talked about. So we took the 91 variables, ran a factor analysis, grouped highly correlated variables, and we were able to test each bucket of influencers while controlling for the rest. So essentially what this means is we were able to infer which of the factors influences the decision the most for a high school student to pursue computer science at the university level. And essentially we were able to rank them. So let's take a look at what we found. So this slide, this shows data from our college students, the college students that we had surveyed. And there's a lot of information here, but the major takeaway is that even though there are a lot of factors in college that influence the decision to study CS, the gray bar on the left shows that most of the decision, 61% of the decision, happens before women enter college, before girls get into college. This means that that we really have to invest in pre-college outreach to affect change. This is one of the reasons why Google feels really strongly that every student, every pre-university student, every K-12 student should have the opportunity to learn computer science. We want to engage students and get them excited about computer science before they tune out and decide that it's not for them. So let's jump into our data for high school students. And this chart shows the top levers that influence high school girls to go into computer science. And what you'll notice is that there are only a few major categories of factors here that influence that decision the most. So really, it boils down to encouragement and exposure. The results of this study are really exciting. They've really informed the way that Google, the way that we approach CS education and how a lot of our partners are running their programs. So let's take a closer look at the results and what they mean. First of all, encouragement is made up of these two buckets of social encouragement and self-perception. And social encouragement is the most influential factor that we found. This is comprised of positive reinforcement from parents, siblings, teachers, mentors, counselors, but especially from parents. Girls who reported being encouraged towards computer science, particularly by their parents, were significantly more likely to be interested in it. What's really interesting here is that we found significant differences between boys and girls in this factor. Girls are significantly more impacted than boys are by encouragement, especially from their parents. So in other words, encouragement has more of an effect on girls than it does on boys. So the next bucket of factors is self-perception. And this is a girl's interest and perceived ability in math, problem solving, and tinkering. Girls who felt that they were good at and liked math, problem solving, and tinkering were more likely to go into computer science. The third bucket that we're looking at is academic exposure. Pre-college access to computer science in schools and in extracurricular programs outside of school, as well as the ability to fit those classes into their schedule, were critical to girls pursuing computer science or developing an interest in computer science, just having access to those courses. Again, this is really interesting that we found significant disparities between boys and girls in this respect. Having access to courses and extracurriculars was not as important for the boys in our study, but it was very significant for girls. The fourth bucket that we'll look at is career perceptions. And what this means is that girls who have a positive perception of careers in computer science and understand its potential for social impact are much more likely to have an interest in computer science. Not surprising. And interestingly,
Hi, I wanted to, apologies to jump in, saw another question coming in from the audience. On the slide, it says that social impact is negatively correlated, but you were just saying that girls that see computer science to make a difference is really powerful. Can you kind of break that down a little bit?
Sure, thanks for calling that out. So wanting a career with social impact is negatively correlated with going into computer science. And what that means is that a girl who wants to have a career with social impact, who wants to change the world, who wants to do something, something meaningful, is less likely to go into computer science. And this is really paradoxical. We know the impactful, life-changing things that you can do with computer science. We know that you can design self-driving cars and contact lenses that measure glucose levels. We know that you can create massive search engines that help you organize the world's information. So I think what this tells us is that we really, as an industry, as parents, as educators, just need to do a better job of promoting that awareness, of telling those stories about how you can have really impactful, about how students can do really impactful things with computer science.
Great, thanks for that.
Yeah, you bet. And the fifth bucket, you'll see there are also some non-controllable factors that come into play. So here we're looking at household income and ethnicity. These were also statistically significant influencers, but notice how small this bucket of non-controllable stuff is relative to everything else that we can influence. So those first four buckets comprise 95% of a high school girl's decision to pursue computer science. And those are all things that we can influence. And this is really exciting because it means that there's so much that we can do to get girls interested in computer science. So with that, we've covered all of the factors that are significant. Let's take a look at what we found to be not significant. So a lot of the 91 factors that we tested were not significant influencers when you control for all other factors. Okay, and I won't go through all of these, but it's important to note that a lot of the non-controllable items that we discussed were not significant, and this is great. And Abby, you called out earlier that there are a lot of educators who are likely on this call. So I did want to call out one thing. In the second column, you'll see good CS teachers in high school. We found that that was not a significant influencer to students, to girls deciding to go into computer science. And this is a little misleading. So we're not saying that good teachers are not important. We're not saying that good teachers don't matter. Quite the contrary. We know that good teachers are very critical, but what our research found was that a high school girl's perceptions of her computer science teacher's skills were not significantly correlated with her decision to pursue computer science at the university. So of course, a good computer science teacher is important for preparing students to do well in CS, but the students' perceptions of teacher quality didn't influence their decision to pursue computer science. The other thing that I'll call out is the third column. We've got parents' occupation and degree. This is really interesting because traditional wisdom tells us that parents in tech will have children who pursue careers in tech. And what our research finds is, the major takeaway from our research is that parent occupation is actually completely insignificant. Parents' technical degrees are completely insignificant if you control for other factors like encouragement. So in other words, for parents in tech, unless a parent in technology or in computer science isn't actively encouraging their daughters, their daughters are not any more likely to go into computer science. And conversely, for the parents who are not working in technical roles, there's really good news. You don't have to be an expert in computing. So as long as you're encouraging your daughters to take computer science classes or to find opportunities to learn computing, that's the most important influencer in terms of getting girls to pursue computer science. So let's move on to the takeaways. And Abby, feel free to interrupt if there are any other questions that come in from the audience.
Thanks, Hi. We've got actually quite a few questions coming in, but I'm going to hold a few till the end.
Okay, sounds great. So the major takeaway for educators is to consider encouragement and exposure in the work that you do. When you think about social encouragement, how do you create an environment of encouragement? How do you engage parents? How do you get parents to understand that their words and actions are really important and have an impact, especially for girls? And, and as educators and parents, consider your words and actions as well, and check your own biases. So you want to be careful not to say things like, oh, mom's not technical, or I'm not technical, or ask your dad, he's better at these kinds of things. Check your biases and think about how you are encouraging your daughters and students to to pursue computer science and really to encourage them to understand that anybody can be technical. In terms of self-perception, think about how you can build girls' interest in math and tinkering and problem solving. How do you create safe opportunities for them to explore and build these skills and build their self-confidence? In terms of academic exposure, how will you increase access to computer science at your school? How do you start a CS class, bring it into your school? Or if you can't do that, how do you bring computer science exposure to your students through extracurricular programs? If you're not able to get a formal CS class in place, work to provide other opportunities after school or outside of school. Take a look at Google's CS First program. Again, we've open sourced these lesson plans, and we're looking to expand our CS First clubs. And finally, for career perceptions, think about how you can help change the image of computer scientists and what you can do with computer science. So how do you show girls that you can change the world using computer science? How do you highlight careers in tech and what careers in tech can do and how collaborative those careers are? And that they're careers for not just for boys and not just for certain stereotypes of people, that anybody can pursue a career in tech and can really have social impact with that. And similar to that slide, we'll jump to the next one about how you individually can help encourage girls to pursue computer science. This is especially important for parents and uncles and aunts and friends. How do you get your daughters and nieces and friends into computer science? So again, think about in school. How do you encourage your daughter or niece or friend to enroll in a computer science class? Code.org has a great directory that shows local computer science opportunities in classroom. If your school, if your daughter or niece's school does not offer computer science, ask for it. Talk to your school principal, talk to your administrators, talk to your school board, and ask for computer science. After school programs, you can encourage your daughter and niece to participate in after school programs. Go online, search for programs in your community. You can also go to madewithcode.com. There are activities there that introduce girls to the concepts of computer science and to coding. Again, CS First is another way of bringing computer science into after school programs.
Hey, hi, I want to jump in really quickly with a audience question, and I'm going to just read it verbatim. I don't see a lot of female computer scientists on television. Where should young women look for female role models in tech?
That's a really great question. That gets to number 4 here. It's important to show diverse role models. So there are not a lot of great role models in media on television and film. That's something that's a different presentation, but that's also something that Google's working on. There are a number of stories that we've put out there lately in the media about how Google's partnering with children's shows, with different TV shows to change the way that we're talking about computer science and show women in technical roles. So that hopefully will begin to change. You'll start to see some really exciting, actually you'll see some exciting characters on Disney's Miles from Tomorrowland. Loretta, who is Miles' older sister, is really into computer science and does really cool stuff with it. Also, a show called The Fosters has a character, one of the daughters is interested in computer science and just wrapped up season 1 with a really cool dance choreography number that includes computer science. So you'll start to see a shift there in terms of media. I would say in addition to that, take a look at Made with Code site. So on the Made with Code site, madewithcode.com, there are a number of inspirational videos about mentors and makers. We'll link to that. We'll link to that after this hangout. And they are really exciting stories about women in the industry or high school girls who are using computer science in really exciting ways. You'll see that it's not just about programming a database or a search engine, which is very important, but you'll see that Made with Code shows that computer science is really involved, can be a critical piece of anything that a girl is interested in. So dance choreography, humanitarian aid, graffiti cleanup, building an app that that detects breast cancer. There are a lot of really exciting, impactful things that you can do with computer science. And yeah, it's important just to look for those role models. So they're not out there on necessarily widely on media, but look for them. Parents and educators and friends, introduce your daughters and students and girls to women who use computer science in different ways. And again, take a look online. There are lots of great videos that will demonstrate to you what women can do with computer science.
Yeah, and actually, Hi, jumping off that point, when you're talking about Made with Code, one of the other speakers on the Google EDU on Air was a woman named Brittany, and Brittany was featured on Made with Code for her research, how she used computer science to study breast cancer after she had family members be diagnosed. And as myself, being a biology major and always wanting to grow up and change the world, I saw science as the way to do that. And I think it's so empowering to realize that computer science can be that tool for young women that want to cure cancer and want to cure world hunger. And the solutions are out there, and code is just one of the many tools in the toolbox we can use to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Abby. Yeah, Brittany Wenger was was one of the winners of the Google Science Fair a couple of years back, and she's done some amazing things. Yeah, so really exciting to show. And this ties into the fifth point here: CS plus X. This is a concept that we talk about, and this gets to the exact point that you were talking about, Abby. We need to do a better job of showing girls that computer science can be combined with whatever their passions are. So encourage girls to explore computer science where it intersects with their passion. So for example, if you're interested in biology, there are lots of applications for computer science in biology. I recently saw a story about English PhD students who are using computer science to do data mining and word analysis on texts that have been written over the last several hundred years. So really exciting stuff that you can do with computer science, and really your opportunities are limitless. We'll jump back up. I noticed that I skipped number 3, which was learn with her. So for parents and for uncles and aunts and friends, try learning computer science with your girls. You'll find that it could be a really meaningful experience for you as well. And take a look on the Made with Code site. There's a great article called "Why Coding is Kind of a Big Deal." Take a look at that article, and it really shows you, explains a lot of what we talked about here today, all the reasons why computer science really is a big deal, and how learning computer science can become such a critical part of your daughter or girl's future. So
Great.
With that, Abby, do we want to jump right into questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our first question we can answer on the last slide. We have many questions asking, one, where can I access the research? And B, direct quote, can I have these awesome slides?
So this education on air will be recorded, so you can definitely have access to this presentation afterwards. Here, Abby's linked to the research paper. There's a short link there. We'll also link to it on this education on air session. So afterwards, we'll create a doc with all of the links to the resources that we've talked about.
Great.
And Abby, I'd also like to invite you, as the questions are coming in, feel free to chime in, please. Abby's one of my teammates on the K-12 team, so she knows this stuff as well as anybody.
I hope so. Hi, jumping in with another question, and we can kind of tag team on this. What if we don't have computer science in my school? What do I do?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that you can do. First is ask for it. Or demand it. Talk to your principals, talk to your school board, let them know that you want it. There's really no way for school administrators and school boards to know that the demand for computer science is there unless people in the community are actively asking for it. So that's the first option. Again, if it's not in your schools, you can take a look at the opportunities online. Well, first of all, the opportunities in the community. There is a directory on the Made with Code site that links to different opportunities to learn computer science or to learn coding in the community. There are also a lot of great opportunities online. Take a look at Coursera, Coursera.com, the Khan Academy. there are, and Abby, actually, I'm sure that you've got a lot more off the top of your head, a lot of great online opportunities. Many of them are completely free for students to learn computer science.
Absolutely. Yeah, code.org cannot be overemphasized. They have so many programs that are available to be used anywhere. They even have programs called this idea of CS Unplugged, which I know there's actually another EDU on Air going on about right now. And these CS Unplugged for areas that might be having issues with broadband, or you may just not have enough Wi-Fi capacity to run a Flash-based program. But you can actually learn computational thinking, through just using paper. Or there's a cool cup stacking technique through Thinkersmith, who is a Google Rise Award recipient. So there's a lot of areas to learn. I think the tough thing we see with teachers, it's just that it's intimidating. It's hard to know where to start. And I hope that parts of these presentations can give educators the inspiration to say, hey, maybe this is time to take the first step. Maybe this is time to empower our students with computer science resources for their future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also add on to that. We've talked a lot about CS First. That's another great way of getting computer science into schools. And then also, Abby mentioned CS Unplugged. This is a great opportunity, as you mentioned, for people who might not even have access to computers. You can learn computer science and computer science concepts even without computers. And those are also activities that teachers can use, that parents can use with younger students to start communicating some of the concepts and teaching those.
Definitely. Well, we're getting questions coming in right now. Hi, I want to give a shout out. We've got some great Twitter activity as well. And I'm going to do a direct quote. Let's see. Miss Fiddler says that the stats coming out of Google's research on women who choose computer science are mind-blowing. So thank you, Miss Fiddler. We think they're pretty awesome too. And one of the reasons Google did this research is so that we can share the results with everybody. And these results and this data can be empowered for everyone's pursuit of computer science. So please feel free to use this data, reference it when you are communicating with other educators and teachers to show that this is why computer science is a big deal and why it gets us all very excited.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the other things I'll call out is that this research study is the first of several computer science research studies that we plan on launching. So stay tuned. Google is going to continue to publish some computer science research. And there's a lot more coming out this summer.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm going to read off another question for us. This is a good one. What can current CS college students do to help encourage girls to explore computer science?
That is a great question. So think about the questions that we posed a little earlier. How do you, well, first of all, in your personal life, think about the way that you're talking about computer science. Tell stories about what you can do with computer science and change the perceptions of who is it for. It's not just for, the stereotype of the nerdy boy sitting in his room by himself. Computer science is for everyone. So really, if you are a computer science student in college, talk about the cool stuff that you're doing. Tell people, tell girls, encourage them to pursue it. You can also volunteer. There are a lot of opportunities, a lot of nonprofits out there that are teaching computer science in schools after school. And as a college student, I'm sure that they would love to have you participate.
Absolutely. Sorry, let me see we got one more question coming in. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
I love all the activity and the engagement from our audience.
Yeah, we're getting folks retweeting some slides, which is really exciting as well. And it's cool to see people taking this action. Hey, hi, do you want to talk for a minute about the Google Rise Awards and what we're doing with that program to I know we touched on it earlier, but how we're using these grants to empower computer science in local communities?
Absolutely, yeah. And for all of you watching, take a look at the Google Rise Awards. These are grants that Google gives to small and medium-sized nonprofits that promote computer science education after school. It's a program that funds nonprofits all over the world. So I mentioned earlier that this year we're funding 37 nonprofits in 19 countries. Typically, the application cycle opens up in August. This year, it may be delayed a little bit. We're rethinking some of the ways that we run the program. So the application cycle might be delayed a bit, but you can always set up a Google News alert to keep track of when that grant comes out. But these are for organizations. These are smaller smaller grants for nonprofits that do extracurricular computer science work. You don't necessarily have to be a CS program. You can be a STEM program. You could be a ballet class, as long as you're integrating computer science into the work that you're doing. And so you can apply for a RISE award. It is a very competitive process. We select a cohort every year that we put through this program. We provide you with funding, with access to resources. We connect you to other RISE organizations and develop this community of computer science advocates. And of course, we connect you with folks at Google who are really passionate about promoting computer science and getting more kids into tech.
Yeah, so if there's any folks watching along right now that are using some of these resources and experimenting with computer science in your community, we hope to see you in the next application cycle. It would be amazing to connect and learn more about how you are innovating in this field and making CS more accessible for everybody.
Yeah, and our RISE organizations are great. These are some of the best and most impactful organizations across the world who are really expanding access and inclusiveness and really are change makers in the CS education space. So.
Absolutely. Well, hi, it looks like we've gotten to just about the end of our questions. I'm doing one more refresh now to see if anything's coming up, but any final words that we want to leave our audience with?
I would say thank you for joining us today. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for all the work that you're doing. Please continue to inspire our students to study computer science, to impact the world. And yeah, please stay in touch and let us know if you've got any questions. We're excited to be doing the work that we're doing and to support you in your work. So thanks for joining us.
I'll give a resounding +1 to all of that. So hi, thank you so much for leading us through all of this today, all of the research. And just like Hai mentioned earlier, we will be updating the Google Doc on the EDU on Air website with some of the resources we mentioned today, including links to the research paper. So stay tuned for that. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of Google's EDU on Air.
Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.